Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Carvers and Creators, a weekly demonstration and discussion with pumpkin carvers, sculptors, and multi-talented artists. We humbly ask that you please consider giving us a like and a follow on the platform you're watching us on. And please let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you have any questions for the carvers, my name is Michael Mondragon, and I'll be running the show, moderating comments, and chiming in from time to time. Let's meet our carvers. First, he is an artist and sculptor from Boston, Massachusetts. He is the 2019 champion of Food Network's Outrageous Pumpkins. Paul Dever, welcome.
Good evening, everybody.
Paulie.
Hey, buddy. How we doing, guys?
All right.
Next up is a multimedia sculpture artist from Tucson, Arizona, and a finalist on Halloween Wars 2019 on the Food Network, Matt Harper. Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Glad to be here.
And our guest carver is a chef, a certified ice carver, that is, a cheese, snow, and sand sculptor. He is also an accomplished master pumpkin carver. Please welcome from Tillamook, Oregon, Dean Murray. Welcome.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Welcome, Dean.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Right on. So let's first do our ceremonial first cheers and toast, let me configure this. All right. So what are you drinking out there, Paul?
Okay, so tonight I have a cloud candy from Mighty Squirrel. There we go. And I know you like to know what the percentage is. This is a 6.5, and it's a New England style IPA.
Oh,
and it's pretty good.
Right up my alley.
We had to get your New England in there since I have the Vikings on.
That's right. Don't worry, I got 4 or 5 more lined up and ready for you, Dean.
What do you have, Dean?
That's what I'll be drinking.
Okay, I have a hazy IPA from Frime Brewery, which is in Hood River, which hazy IPA because it's been hazy all day from the forest fires, which luckily is going the other way from us. And Hood River's got a forest fire going on up there too. So we're thinking about those guys, but it's a hazy IPA and it's a 7.9. So we're gonna sip on it so that we don't mess up a pumpkin.
Right on.
We get to watch you sleep. Maybe it'll second half.
Yeah, right.
That looks delicious. Matt, what do you got?
I have, trying to stay close to our friends on the Mexican border, which I'm a little more than an hour from. We're going with and by the way, I'm venturing into the unknown. It's an IPA, but it's a Dos Equis. Let's see if I can do this here. And it says that on the label, it's got citrus and a hint of heat. So I have a feeling I'm going to hate
Jalapeno.
So I'm going to give it a go because it's an IPA, but I have other ones in the background here, like these macro brews, like Stella, just in case, because I know I can drink that.
Right on.
All right, Mickey, what do you got?
Well, I actually have this is actually a hard cider. And the really cool thing about this, it's called Juicy Roots. And it's carrot, blood orange, and ginger. And the really cool thing about this is it's 5% alcohol, but there's absolutely 0 sugar in it. So it's a very unique cider, and highly recommend it. I think it's only available here in California, but I would look for it other places. It's the only cider I've ever seen with 0 sugar, and it's like a probiotic, and so, but it's fantastic.
So it's good for you.
Keto friendly.
That's right. I'm trying to watch my weight, so it's definitely good for that. So cheers to everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, everybody.
So Dean, what are you carving today?
So lately my kick has been to work on eyes and stuff like that. So right here I have it is a caricature of Robert De Niro. You can kind of see that little mole there. He's kind of got the mouth of him. I've still got to work on some frown lines in the forehead, some more of the the Widow's Peak lines on the outside there going on, but I got to start on it.
It's great.
Love it.
I love the mouth.
Wow, outstanding. Yeah, you can totally see who it is immediately. That's. I love how you said it's a caricature. That's the one thing that instead of ever doing a portrait sculpture, I've always said caricatures because then I'm not held to that standard. So
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I made that mistake before of saying I'm going to work on a portrait, and then when I get done, I'm like, oh no, it's a character. So I just start with the character now.
Yes, that's a good move.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Nice. So, Paul, I know that you actually are only starting yours right now. So, should I go to Matt?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You got another 30 seconds if he goes to Matt first.
Further along in a second.
All right, let's go to Matt first then.
okay. So I still have I got pumpkins, so I'm happy about that. But what I also got was my hands on the last remaining butternut. Now this guy started out with absolutely zero direction. I really didn't even know what I was starting to carve when I dug into it. But right now he's looking a little like, and I think the lighting will probably have to show a little bit more of this, but pretty demented looking gorilla demon thing, I think. So I'm not really happy with the teeth yet. They may become actual regular, or some kind of demented looking teeth. But right now he's coming to a nightmare near you. Let's see if I can get there. We go. Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm starting. But again, the thing I love about this show is once you get started on something and it can morph and go a different direction entirely, and just getting input from other carvers and folks is a huge help too. So be ready for some random advice kind of questions I might ask you guys, Dean. And
yeah, when I first see it, I think it's got a great brow on it, and those big teeth kind of remind me of the tiki head.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
To it. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I can go with that theme. What the heck?
Yeah.
Looks good, man. It's a great start. We've been busy, Matt. We got those
pumpkins. I got an hour and a half or so into this guy. Let's see where it goes.
All right, Paula, you're up.
All right. So I ain't got much to show. Everybody gets to watch me work on this guy. I just started. What do I have? About 3 minutes into it. So I'm gonna start. You'll start seeing me blocking in shapes. I don't really have an idea, I guess you would call it. I'm just gonna roll completely off the cuff and see what I can get out of it. This is probably gonna be the last butternut I carve for the season, I guess, because I have so many pumpkins to carve. So this will be fine. I just gotta, like Matt said, there's gonna be a lot of input from you guys as to where I go with this one. So right now I'm literally, obviously you can see where the expression's going, more of a disappointed look, because I lost at golf today. I'm very disappointed, and everything's based on my current emotion. So we'll see where it goes. I'm completely open to suggestions tonight.
That's right. So, and by the way, if anybody wants to, because I could use some, Paul could use some. Looks like Dean's pretty locked, but if anybody happens to be watching and they want to have a couple ideas for us, throw them at us, because we're always excited to get input from our fans. So
right, and I'm completely open to ignoring all comments. So
there we go. You can do that too.
No, this is free form Thursday. So Dean, you're not just your run-of-the-mill pumpkin carver. You're a ice carver, a cheese carver, a sand sculptor. Like, where does the list end? What don't you carve?
Well, so I try not to. I should move this up so you can see me. I try not to carve things that last. Pam Leno was on the original. Well, it was season 2 of Outrageous Pumpkins when it was Food Network Challenge with me, and her bio on there was. I loved the line that she used, and it was the fact that she was a biodegradable sculptor.
That's a good line.
And I love that because everything that I do, I mean, the ice melts, the sand gets washed away on the beach, or it gets smashed if it's in town on in a parking lot or whatnot. You know how temporary the pumpkins and fruits and vegetables I do are. I like to say that
What is that?
this is
Wow.
food art. So this is in Tampa, Florida, and I did this with Vivian Pham, a talented cake artist. But this is all pasta.
Wow.
So this is a pasta pelican coming up out of a splash with a fish in his mouth, and I think the beak is fettuccine, and it's all the way down to the itty bitty little feathers on its head and around its eye are orzo pasta, corkscrew pasta coming out of there. So I did a lot of the sculpting of the armature and getting it ready, and then the two of us attacked it with pasta and a hot glue gun or two. And there's a few that are going to maybe be shown from the Tampa thing. I've got to work with some very, very talented artists when I've been in the food artist group.
So when you get started, I don't think I've ever seen, you guys tell me if you have, I've never ever seen a pasta sculpture before.
You never went to second. This is like second grade on steroids.
Okay,
Yeah, this is grown-up macaroni art.
Yeah, this is if in second grade you fell in love with it and you pursued it as a career. Like that's the top of the mountain right there.
That's one of my favorite lines at a lot of these shows that I do like that is so many people walk up and they're kind of speechless at times. So to get them talking, I'm like, yeah, my mom told me not to play with food, but I didn't listen, and you get to play with food and you get to, it's the same end result, in the middle of this, when this is styrofoam and wires and hot glue is showing and you're just like, I hate this thing. I wish this was done. And when you got 2,000 pieces of pasta to glue to it, you're like, I'm so done with pasta. But when it's done, you can see I got a smile on my face. Then you're happy. But if you would have seen this in the middle, it's the same thing we go through with sculpting a pumpkin or a butternut.
Yeah, I think we all hit that phase at one point in a carver or another where you don't know if it's worth even finishing sometimes. But as long as you see it through, usually it works out pretty good.
Yeah, sometimes that you just have a boner one and it just flops all the way. But hopefully those are few and far between now for me compared to where they were when I first started sculpting. The one in between that you hit on with the birds, those are three parrots. That's another very talented. He does pumpkins. But he's really talented ice. But he's a pastry chef from the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando. A good friend of mine, Victor Dagatan, and I've carved ice with him a lot. This is pulled sugar and pastillage. So the pastillage is kind of a sugar clay that you mold and let dry. But the pulled sugar, you see how it's kind of wrapped around the tree. That's hot sugar when you're using gloves and working real quick and torches and trying to get this melted sugar to wrap around and attach to things. And this was probably about a week's project for Victor and I to work on. Yeah.
Wow. What does something like that, because it's pastillage? How do you keep that from? Does it dry out? Does it mold? What happens?
That kept in the right environment will last kind of indefinitely. It'll kind of lose its luster sometimes. We did seal it with a shellac. And there are food grade shellacks. Nobody was eating this one, so we just used a regular spray on shellac on it. But as long as anything else, the sugar is the moisture is what's going to affect it. And we used, I don't know if you've ever heard of isomalt.
Yeah, isomalt sugar, sure.
So it's the isomalt is it's way more expensive than regular sugar, but it's way more stable in a situation like this. So if you're going to do something like this, invest in isomalt to make it last. And I went to culinary school and I did a blown sugar dolphin, and we did sugar roses out of hot sugar. But this was the biggest, one of the two biggest pieces of sugar I've ever worked on.
That's fantastic.
So with the culinary school background, obviously I can see you're drawn to the food thing. But do you currently cook, or are you a chef somewhere that we should know and start to get in line?
It was about, well, it took me 8 years, 6, 8 years of working part-time cooking breakfast and taking food sculpture related gigs to turn away from the kitchen and just to sculpture gigs. So I haven't worked in the kitchen for, maybe 5 years, other than I cook at home a lot because my wife's a chef too. And she was still working right up to the beginning of the pandemic here. And so with her going to work, I was kind of the housekeeper, cook, and take care of the dog all day, you know?
Right.
Now you put out a lot of cooking videos as well, right? I think I've seen some of them.
Yeah, so we were doing, and I haven't done as many lately, but we started doing something I called Live at 5, and it was 5 here because I got a lot of family in the Midwest that would watch, so it's 7 o'clock at night for them. But we were just kind of trying to throw something out there, kind of fun for people to watch. So my wife and I will do just a quick cooking video with sometimes we have the Martha Stewart moment where we've already got one baked and we pop one in and pull one out, type thing. We try to throw jokes in it. We try to leave COVID and politics out of it, and just I try to throw some stupid dad jokes in there, and just try to get people to forget what they're thinking about, you know.
Yeah, it's a good move. I think we all need a little distraction right now.
Yeah. So this is probably a 2-day sculpture here. And it's Greg Mutowski out of Columbus, and he's now the head of the food artist group.
Wow.
But so many watermelon sculptors do only flowers, and I wanted to get into, so I started doing etchings like that dragonfly up there, going on with it. And then we have 3-dimensional things like right against my jacket, you can kind of see sticking out there. I think Greg did it, but it's a praying mantis, but that's out of malanga root, which is a pain in the butt. I think I did the spider in front of Greg out of butternut. There's a grasshopper right up front I have some really good pictures of the grasshopper I didn't send, but I stuck him in a bush and took pictures of him, but he's a butternut squash going on there. So, I mean, it's a break apart and build, though. You're carving each leg and attaching them.
Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to say, you like to do insects and praying mantises. I saw one that you did of a giant praying mantis on a pumpkin, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the giant praying mantis had a pumpkin was because we were at the Milwaukee Zoo, and we were next to the aquarium/terrarium building. So we did a whole scene like this of bugs, and that's where I did, and that was about 100-pound pumpkin.
Oh, wow.
This is the watermelon with butternut squash bees, and that's about a day in because you can see the skin of the butternut was curling on their leaves. It looked better. I should have got a better picture of it before it curled up.
That's fantastic.
I like to say that I dabble, back to the question of I'm doing so many things. I like to say I dabble in a little bit of everything. I'm not at the top of everything, but I'm near the top of a lot of them, you know? Like, I'm not putting my pumpkin up against Ray Villafaine's, which I've had to do. And that was 2009 when I went to do Food Network's Outrageous Pumpkins on Food Network Challenge. I get there, and that's when I met Ray, and I had no idea who he was, and I'm just like, who's this tattooed dude over there? And little did I know, he was the one that was going to win it all. But it was a three challenges and points for each challenge, and whoever got the most points at the end won. And I did end up beating him in the 3D sculpture round.
No way. Yeah, I gotta go back and watch it. I know I've seen it. I gotta go back and watch it.
I did a skeleton hand like this, raking over a mouth. I did a bunch of negative space in there and did spider webs in behind it, and the guy's eyeballs looking down at it. But back then, I didn't have the ability to learn from watching Ray, so most all of my sculpture in pumpkin back then was done with nothing but a flat paring knife. Like
Wow.
I didn't shape with any loop tools. I used a paring knife, and I don't know if you guys use, but I use a Sureform.
Okay. It's
Like a
drywall.
grater?
yeah.
Yeah, it's like a grater, so it really helps take the skin off without taking much flesh. So, where when you're grabbing a loop tool and you're pulling it along it, and it leaves those little bubbles in the flesh.
Yeah.
This doesn't do that. This just takes it off nice and smooth, kind of like a peeler without digging as deep, because there's
Nice.
so many small holes to go through and do it. So that's been one of my go-to tools, and it's also nice when you're doing one of those huge Atlantic giants to shape. It's my shaper tool when it gets to those, and that's its original purpose. Its original purpose is shaping drywall corners and
Yeah.
Oh, really?
yeah.
I gotta get
Yeah.
one.
It's a Stanley drywall tool. It's called a Sureform.
Mark says that's Sue's favorite tool as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of I've turned so many people onto that tool. And I would just say get the Stanley one. Don't go to Harbor Freight and get their version. It just doesn't work as well. I have the original. My original one is orange. They're all yellow now. I don't think you'll find an orange one anymore.
Paul's gonna order one.
No,
You can-
Mark already knows I was actually like Googling on Amazon.
Tool envy. That's
You can
another theme of the show is tool envy.
You
Yes,
can
oh my God, I have current tools.
replace the grater part, and I have like 2-3 extra of those to work with from that. So the tool I gotta get is I have the Danny Kissel set of tools where he takes a screwdriver, takes the metal out, and he puts his tool in. So he used a scoop here for that. A lot of them are more the shaping type tools. What I realized I don't have, and I'm going to have Danny make, is a beer opener.
Oh,
Yeah.
That belongs, but Danny doesn't drink beer. He drinks Mountain Dew. I don't know if he toasted you guys with Mountain Dew, but
He did.
um,
That was,
Yeah.
that was his drink. Yep.
oh yeah, he showed his Mountain Dew fridge, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, Danny doesn't. He's got a beer belly, but it's not beer. It's Mountain Dew. I can say that because I'm a good friend of his, and he'll give me crap back.
yeah, he's
That's
very high.
if you have a beer belly from Mountain Dew, you didn't enjoy it on the way up. That's kinda how it
Well, it's his father-in-law worked for. Is it Pepsi that does that, or?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
But every week they get so many cases of soda free, so he would just stockpile Mountain Dew, and then when he'd come see Danny, he'd just drop off 4 or 5 of them. So he just started drinking it, and he got addicted to it. And I was like, "You married into Mountain Dew."
You do a ton of competitions, Dean, and I know you've been, and I obviously with the pumpkins, but with all these other varieties of medium. I mean, stuff is just unfathomable to me, like the sand and the ice and the cheese and the noodles. But one of the things that I remember just last week, Mark was saying how he's kind of over the competition part of it, but it seems like you're still drawn to it. Do you find a lot of creative juices come out and those kind of things, or is it just a camaraderie, or just you love that whole aspect of being in a competition?
A lot of it is both, but I feel like I'm a bit of a procrastinator. So and my wife's laughing because she knows it's true. I'm very much a procrastinator. So when you put me under a clock, then I can't procrastinate. Then I have to do it going on. So that's what turns up there. And I think some of my best work comes out. I think that the pressure makes you, like, as we're carving now, you look at one little section and you're like, oh crap, that's wrong. In a competition, you don't have time to worry about it. You're just like, okay, that's got to be good enough. Then I go on to the next part. And the end, it usually turns out pretty good from that. And on TV, they can make it. So the pumpkin Mickey's showing now, well, the picture that he has on now, under his left tusk there, you see the pound sign and 1323.5. The story behind that is there's a pumpkin way off that we go to every year, and they pay us to carve these big pumpkins. But when the growers put their pumpkins into the way off, they're signing their pumpkin over to the event. It's Operation Pumpkin in Hamilton, Ohio. When they sign it over to the event, they can do with what they want with it. So there were years where they did them with the pumpkin regatta down on the water because it's right by the river. But we were able to choose which pumpkins out of that way off we could carve. And they would tell us, you can't touch the top 3 pumpkins. And there's one called the Howard Dill Award, which is the most beautiful. It's usually a bright orange pumpkin. So there's usually 4 or 5 of them we can't touch. But when we choose one, the growers lots of times were pissed that we were going to carve their pumpkin until they started seeing what we were doing with them. Well, one of the ways that I got around that is, they spent 90 days growing it. They spent the winter planting it. They spend all this time getting their plot ready. They put up greenhouses over it. They send off samples of their soil to get the nutrients right and add what they need to their soil. There's so much that goes into it, and they might spend 60 days working on one of these, and then they get too much rain and it splits and it's done. So there's so much that goes into it. I wanted to honor the growers, so I started putting the weight on the pumpkin somewhere, or a little piece of pumpkin next to it with the weight, and sometimes we put the name of it. And like there's growers there that the first few years, like we were looking at one of this Brian Reeves pumpkins, and he was like, "Get the hell away from my pumpkin! You're not carving my pumpkin." And it ended up winning the most beautiful pumpkin in the show, so we didn't get to carve it. But now, last year when I showed up, he was like, "I got one that's probably going to be disqualified. Why don't you pick that one and carve it? I'll see if I can get it weighed first so you can get started on it." And that ends up being Mickey's got the picture of it. It's a Superman over the city, or not, Spider-Man over the city with it. So that same guy that was, "Hey, don't touch my pumpkins," is now like, "Hey, why don't you do my pumpkin?" So we kind of turned that around a little bit on it. And the kind of the sequence that Mickey showed there, he showed the pumpkin in its orange state, and then he showed it from the same side, because a couple of the carvers were calling me the pumpkin whisperer, because you can kind of see when you look at that, you can see where the head of and the eyes are there. When you see just the orange pumpkin, the orange of the pumpkin, you can see that. You can see.
Oh, that, you can totally
you can totally see right where that crown of his head is. And those tusks on that one were fun, because those tusks were a good 2 feet at least long, and they came out of the stem end of the pumpkin, and I took them off and polished them and polished them and polished them, and I polished them to the point where they look like they're a different color than the pumpkin. Polishing them with a Scotch Brite pad and then adding them on and polishing them up. So they actually look to me like a little different color than the rest of the pumpkin.
Oh, much different. And the texture too, the smoothness of them really makes them stand out. Now, Mark was wondering if they came from a separate pumpkin.
So on these big pumpkins, because like I said, that they're growing them, the way that these growers associations make money is they sell the seeds from the members' pumpkins. So the first few years, they were like, "Don't you dare cut into the cavity unless one of us is there," because they don't want us or anybody else stealing the seeds. Because those seeds can be big money. So, but they trust us now, and they usually wait till the last day. And I usually have an opening somewhere where I cut a spare piece out, and I'm like, "Oh, right there's a good place to get in. You can get some seeds, or do you need a bigger hole? We'll cut you a bigger hole to it to get in there." But if you had a pumpkin over 2,000 pounds, the seeds can go for $50 a seed. If you have a pumpkin, if you have a pumpkin that's a world record, those seeds are like $200 a seed at least.
Oh my God!
On it. So this was 1,100-pound pumpkin. This was a white Atlantic giant. I think I took that 1097 from another pumpkin, or maybe it's the backside of this one. It's kind of whitish orange. Lots of times the white pumpkins don't have as good of color inside, and you have to work with the shadows and depth a little bit better. But this was somebody's drawing I found on the internet and said, hey, that would make a cool sculpture. So I was like, okay, Poseidon, let's do it.
Love the waves.
Yeah. And the ship is awesome. Bounding through the water.
I have an event this year that in the week leading up to Halloween, where we're going to do probably a dozen pumpkins that are bigger than this one. We're talking the 14 to 2,000 pound range, and we're going to do a ship like this, but it's a wreck, and it's going to be half of a ship on each pumpkin on the two biggest pumpkins. So probably a 1,800 pound pumpkin for each half of the ship. And
Wow.
They'll be together, and then it'll be an all underwater scene and underwater monster kind of attacking the ship. And there's going to be a pirate skeleton with a ship's wheel and treasure chest and that type of thing. But that'll be 15,000 pounds of pumpkin displayed in 50 feet of space. Over 15,000 pounds of pumpkins. It's going to take 4 full-time sculptors 4 days to finish the event.
Good God.
Holy.
Wow.
And it'll be a drive-by viewing, so it'll be lit up at night and has a social distancing barrier built in, and we'll have it lit to where it can get good pictures. And if you ever need to learn about lighting these big pumpkins, call Danny, because that's what I did when I was working on this in this event, and because of some of the pictures Danny's taken. And Danny uses multiple lights, but the biggest thing is when you're working with a big pumpkin like this and you're working with that mono color of the pumpkin flesh, is to get the idea of the campfire scary story and the flashlight under your chin.
Yeah.
Because that's where you get all the shadows coming from. If you just shine a light at this from straight out in front of it, you're going to wash everything out. You need to be down low or up high or both.
Yeah, backlighting too is something that I'm coming to find is actually important. Just off, slightly to the back and to the side grabs the rest of those shadows that you didn't even think you were going to get.
Yeah, we have multiple color changing lights that we have, and we have the ability to control the brightness of them, and we can change the color. They're all LEDs, so we can do orange or yellow, which kind of highlights them. We may throw some blue on it since it's an underwater scene. We may have a backsplash, and the backsplash we were talking about doing like blue background, like a dark blue tarp, and then put those lights on it. That's kind of the disco ball that rotates around, but all white, so it gives it the illusion of moving water. But I don't know that that's going to happen.
I think it should.
Yeah. So this one is I think 1623 is the weight of it. I remember this one is Andy Wolf is the name of the pumpkin grower. And see what I'm talking about is honoring those guys. This is 2 years ago, and I still remember the name of the guy that grew it is Andy Wolf. But part of the reason I remember that is because this is a sculpture of Andy Warhol. And if you were looking closer, it's gridded out in the back and has the soup cans, which is one of the pieces of the art that he's most known for. And actually, one of the soup cans, I sculpted into it Wolf, and underneath of it 1623, because that's what it was. So I sculpted the grower's name into one of the cans, and the weight that he had of it under there. And I have a picture of this with the grower. We take some burlap and staple it around the pallets to make it better, and put some small pumpkins down there. His daughter comes with him to the event, so I have a picture of him and his daughter and me with the pumpkin, which is I think important to go with it.
Is.
The same event last year I had to do Robocop because they wanted movie themes. So I did the picture of Robocop when he's coming out of the door with the door open.
You picked
So-
a layup for a picture, huh? The perspective door, yeah, really easy to pull off there, Dean. Really
Well, towards
softballs.
where I was going with that is where I got to the end of it is I'm like, okay, I got to put the grower's name in here. Well, the door has a police badge on it. So I was able to cut Chuck Greenhouse was his name. Chuck Greenhouse and the weight of the pumpkin. And I don't remember the weight of that pumpkin, but I know it was 1,700 pounds because last year I ended up doing 2 of them. And I know Paul and Matt, you've seen the other one that I did. In 4 days, I did 2 pumpkins that together were like 3,500 pounds. So I did 3,500 pounds in 4 days.
That's great.
But that was the one I thought you guys would like since you're in bands, and it's the skeleton playing the guitar.
Oh yeah, we love that one.
It's insane.
And that was a 2-day. That was a 2-day sculpt at the same event, and that's a Jerry Rose pumpkin, and I think it was 1670 going on with it. But Danny was at this event, and Danny left, and I was there 2 days longer than Danny. And you see how the guitar on this one looks whiter than the rest of the pumpkin?
Yeah.
Danny's pumpkin was white. So I went to the back of Danny's pumpkin after he left and stole the guitar out of the back of his pumpkin. So I get that difference in color.
That's awesome.
It's
But-
such a good one.
It is.
They also sometimes call me Bone Man because I do so many skeleton pieces.
Yeah. The thing I love about that is that the flames in the background, along with the movement of the skeleton, and I mean the whole thing is just epic to me. And you're such a master at the big pumpkin. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul and Mickey, but I don't think we've had anybody on that does this many huge pumpkins like this.
Not this many. Mark and Chris do their share, but yeah, I'd say that Dean is the master of the large pumpkin.
Yeah.
I would
Master of
say
the prize winner.
there's an artist that I know that's done way more than me, and that's Russ Leno. He's up in Seattle.
Russ Leno, I know the name.
And he's done a whole lot of them, and he's done some stuff that I really love. Like he did the robotic fish out of a huge pumpkin that was really cool that I loved. It was a robotic fish, and it had tracks on it like a tank, like a military tank, and he called it Fish Tank. So I love that one that he did. But as far as I go with the big pumpkins, I have done one at Hamilton every year for the last probably 6 or 8 years, and I've done at least one at Pittsburgh for the last 3 years. Or this will be is this going to be the 3rd year? Yeah. But as many of them as I can get my hands on, because you can move it takes a lot. You got to move a lot of pumpkin, but the pumpkin is soft. And you guys have probably had your hands on some prize winners.
Yep.
The 100 to 200 pound pumpkins. Those guys, there's a lot of soft ones there, but there's a lot of water in them, and it's so much easier to cut through, and the meat's so much thicker, and you don't have to worry about when you're pushing on it going, oh, I'm going to cut through right here. I don't want to cut through there. There's less of that. There's some right in the middle of this guy, kind of right in front of his mouth. You can kind of, if you went from right in front of his mouth down in front of his wrist, there was a split right there. And the scene or the picture where I'm carving on it, you can kind of see where that groove is.
Yeah, the green there. Yeah.
The green. Well, what the advantage that I had was that the grower had already cut the back out to get the seeds, and I looked inside, and that was one of those wide splits. So I knew I couldn't go very deep right there, and that's why I started with him off to the left a little more. I would have centered him up on the pumpkin to the front a little more, but I knew I didn't have much there, so I left that area just to kind of be flames.
That's awesome.
Because I knew I was going to lose depth there if I tried to get any deeper there.
It's like taking a bath, Mark says.
get a big hole in it.
Now you clearly travel a lot for these big pumpkin things, and you pay good homage to the growers, and I think that's phenomenal. Do you travel as much for sand and for ice and stuff like that? Is that a pretty much a I figure you could, if you do it right, you could probably track the whole year round, get from season to season,
Right.
get summer sand and winter ice and fall pumpkins and
Yeah, there was a while where there was a year or two where it really happened good like that. Some of the sand events, Greg Mutowski at Rock on Ice in Columbus, he does a lot of booking of jobs. Like I say, I like to be that's one of Greg's events.
That's cool.
I did a pizza chef because bricks are easy. And he books a lot of the jobs. So a lot of them are in the Midwest. So yeah, there are a lot of travel. But when he was booking a lot of these jobs, I did live in Wisconsin. So it was a day's drive to get down there to do a lot of these. And I would end up in Florida for a couple of years in a row for 2 or 3 months doing those food artist gigs. And those were sweet because we got to go to the park like 2 days a week. I took my kayaks and I went out into the bay at St. Petersburg and fished the rest of the week.
oh,
Nice. Petersburg's nice.
So that was nice. I told my wife I was off working, but I was only working 2 days a week.
she might hear you. Don't tell
Yeah,
her.
right. I was gonna say, well, that's over. Now she knows.
Yeah, she heard that.
Yeah.
So this is a couple years ago. This is at Fairbanks, Alaska, the World Ice Art Championships.
Wow.
And years and years ago, I started running into trouble with coming up with ideas of what to carve out of ice. So I started carving songs. So my friend actually drew this, Edwin Hutchinson in North Carolina. And he sent me the picture and he sucked me in by saying, this represents the Robert Palmer song, Simply Irresistible. So he had me hooked. So I got on the team and I did the mermaid and helped the guy with the scuba diver. And then we had the other 2 guys worked on the columns. There's a little turtle behind the scuba diver I did. There's a shark somewhere there and another fish that I did in the background. But this is actually about, I think it's nearing 60,000 pounds of ice. This was as high as they'd let us go. We went within 6 inches of the height minimum so we wouldn't get disqualified, but I think it was 20 feet at the time in height. And this is another one of those where lighting really helps. We got the blue light on the columns, and the columns look so awesome because of the natural cracks in the lake.
Yeah.
Because there's a lake that they harvest these blocks out of. A block is 6 foot by 4 foot by however deep the lake is. And when they're pulling it out, they use a big Caterpillar boom lift with forklifts on it. Well, even if those forklifts are at room temperature out there, which is really cold in Alaska, when they go into the water and under it, they can't match the temperature of the water. So you're adding thermal shock to the block and it usually cracks. So then you just kind of figure out which one of those cracks are stable and which ones aren't and try to work around them in that. And that's why you can see in the tail of the mermaid, about halfway up, there's a white spot and then it turns totally clear. That's where I added another piece on for the tail. And that part that's white, that's a crack that's inside of the ice that I couldn't get rid of. So that's why you see the difference there. But like we put together pieces of pumpkin, we put together pieces of ice. Each one of those pillars are like 3 pieces of ice. The top part across it, that's at least 4 pieces of ice. The arms are, like I carved the arm of the mermaid. I carved those separate, put them on, and then I carved the hand and the wrist, and I put them on, and I carved the pearl and put it on.
How does it attach? I mean, is it just heating it and holding it to it and letting nature do its course?
I was going to ask.
Yeah. So there's different methods, and it depends on the temperature that you're working with. If it's really, really, really cold, you can't use the aluminum fusion. But aluminum fusion is if you take a piece of aluminum, heat it up, which I usually use a hot water tank, like a cattle feeder hot water tank. Put the hot piece of flat aluminum in there. You sandwich it between the 2 pieces of ice, which melts them perfectly flat and creates a surface of water. You pull it out real quick and slam those two pieces together, and it refreezes and holds them together. That's the aluminum fusion method. The other method is to take a handsaw, you put the two pieces together, and you run the handsaw through it, and it's a lot of work, but it creates a thin layer of slushy ice type, and enough space there where you can shoot water in. So we use a hypodermic or a big cattle
Baster, like a turkey baster kind of thing.
Turkey baster thing, and shoot the water, the cold water in there. So you want really, really cold water. Some places we get the water right out of a frozen lake. We dig a hole and get the water out, or use a fishing auger and get the water out. So it's really cold, like ice cold, and then you shoot it in there, and hope it doesn't crack and pop too much, because if the water's too much temperature, it'll crack your ice.
Yeah.
All right, so Matt, now that we know that, so next week we'll just do ice sculpture.
Yeah, it just broke 100 degrees here in Tucson, so I'm waiting for the ice to come. So any day.
Right, you can just grab aluminum somewhere and it'll be hot enough to just do the aluminum fusion. That's beautiful right there. Look at that.
So when you're talking about adding ice together, this is
Wow.
two guys over 2 days. So they're long days. Probably a 12-hour day and it's actually 3 days. Probably 10 to 12 hours the first couple days, and then like 8 hours the last day. So it's really over 3 days. Well, I think it's somewhere around 30 hours. But this I actually got to carve with Junichi Nakamura again from Japan. And this started with 15 300-pound blocks of ice.
Wow.
The interesting story with this one is in the splash, so you template a lot of things out in ice, and Junichi had templated this out, and he hands me the templates, and I was working on cutting all those little bubbles and splashes, and he worked on the surfer. Like I worked on mostly the wave, and he worked on the surfer and the surfboard. So in the wave, upside down in the holes, it actually says Junichi. He put his first name into it. And then on the bottom of the surfboard, there's a logo spot on there, and he carved Dean into it. So it's a Dean surfboard and a Junichi wave, which is opposite of who carved it.
That's pretty amazing.
So that's what 4,500 pounds of ice. So this is another one I did with Greg. This was a competition piece. I like to do pieces with humor to it. So this one's called Got Wood. And it's hard to tell on my little phone, but the indigenous caveman there has a remote control for his robotic T-Rex that he's making collect wood for it. So his arms are out, and he's got wood in his arms. So he's collecting firewood for with his robotic T-Rex. And the funny part about this one is it was an indoor event in New York, and the crowd could only stay in this middle section. And the team that was in front of us, the way that the T-Rex is facing, was Steve and Heather Bryce, some of the most talented sculptors in the world, multi-world championships. And the only people that could see it was them, but the caveman was anatomically correct.
Was that intentional?
Yeah, Greg did it, and he just like, okay, since I'm down here, I might as well finish it off right. But it was aiming over there where Steve and Heather were carving, so they were the only ones that could actually see that.
That's great.
With it. So Greg worked on the caveman, and the robotic T-Rex was my major challenge there.
That is great.
That's stunning. I've never seen a robotic T-Rex made of ice before. It's just probably got to be my first time.
Or an anatomic Iceman.
Ice caveman.
Yeah. Ice caveman. And, you might have thought it was small, but it was cold. Oh.
Bing bong. Oh, Dean Murray, everybody.
What do you mean? It's like a scared turtle.
They're not all that size?
This is a piece called Wild Ride. it was Chan Kitberry and myself at Ice Alaska for the World Championships. And this is 2 men, 2 days, one huge, like 8-foot by 5-foot block of ice. And Chan was going through a divorce at the time. And he said he was the beast, and his former wife was the woman up there with the whip. But on this one, Chan worked on the woman and the front part of the beast, and I was the tail and wings and rope. Like the little detail things were my, and you can't see it from where it's at, but she had a G-string type thong on, and it had a bow tie on the back of it where it comes together. You had to be standing behind the 2 wings looking in at her rear end, and you would see where that came together all the way down to a little bow tie coming in there.
All right. So folks, if you ever go see a Dean Murray ice sculpture, please
Look for the
look for the details. Look,
Lots of
walk
Easter
around the whole thing.
walk around the whole thing. You will be happy you did.
You'll find some of those things, yeah.
That is so great.
Yeah,
So, Matt,
it's
let's see how
crazy.
yours is coming along then, Matt.
Yeah, what do you guys got going here?
All right. So I did a little work on his teeth. I'm starting to make them shorter. I gave him some bottom teeth. I still hate the whole thing, and but he's coming along. I'm starting to make his head a little bit more, kind of blocking in some more shapes, so I can put in some kind of wrinkles and stuff when I get ready. But right now it's labor of hate, or for that.
Looking at it from here, Matt, I think the 2 teeth towards the corner of the mouth, if you made those smaller than the others, I think you would like that. And then if you still don't like it, he's missing a tooth in the front. We'll open it up and invite you in more.
I like that. Yeah, and I was struggling with that, so I wanted to make it. Those kabuki masks that have the longer teeth on the outside.
Yeah.
I had that initial thought, but those teeth kind of curl, and I don't have that in this thing. But I can kind of push them out. But yeah, I think you're right. Maybe I go more, realistic and put these teeth a little bit more in his mouth. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, if they were longer, they need to be the shape of a cashew.
That's right. They have to curl all the way up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Love it.
All right, Paul, what do you got?
I'm still blocking stuff out, man. Don't back baby in a corner. All right, I'm still working on. I still see. I don't even have the profile yet. And
what kind of mouth are you thinking, Paul?
I'm not yet.
All right.
Once I clear enough material, I guess this is my process. I like to get the brow and the eye set and the bridge of the nose, so like this area in here, pulled back enough that I can dictate where the muscles of the face are going. You know what I mean? If I clear too much from here too early, it'll get stuck in one static position. So if I work on the eyes and get the expression of where, if it's pushed up or it's pushed, spread out, that's when I'll figure out what the mouth is actually doing. Is it pushed up? Is it is it open?
Right.
So
is the bottom part the cavity?
I don't think it actually has a cavity. I think this one's pretty solid
all the way through.
Yeah, good luck with that. As soon as you think that, you're gonna hit it.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Mark says you're too busy ordering tools to figure out your mouth. I think that's what's going on.
Yes, Mark caught me too, man. Right off the bat. Listen, there's no tool I can't have.
Well, yeah. As soon as I hear about a cool tool, I'm like, oh, well, I just got to have that one too. I don't know if I'll ever use it, but I need it.
It would be wasting these valuable sit-down hang sessions with some of the greatest artists we know if we didn't go, how the hell did you do that? And then when they tell you, you go, all right, now I need to get that tool and learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Part of the process, Paul, is you're looking at the thing from all angles to where the camera doesn't see that. You only need to worry about the front, dude.
I know.
Think of it Halloween Wars style. They only take a picture from one angle.
I know. But my whole my twisted brain is like push it enough so at least you can almost round off the nose. And that way when you get a profile, it's like, ah. But that's why they take so long. Hey, it's Bobby D. That looks awesome.
Oh yeah. Wow.
I've got nipples, Fokker. Can you milk me?
Yeah, can you milk me? So I put the wrinkles in here. I got some more going on out there in the Widow's Peak type area. I was working on getting the little stubble in before we got started. I could do a little bit more of that. I just have a little flat. It's another clay tool, but it's got kind of a spade in, and I'm using it kind of like a drill bit in there just to get a little bit of that going on with it. But yeah, I could drop some of this back, do some. He's always seems to be in a coat and a button-up shirt, so I could do some collars here. I may do that before the final picture, but probably not in the next half hour.
Yeah, right. So let me ask you a question. Is the nose glued on?
Yeah, the nose is glued on, and that's why I say the profile view. You know, that's not a true profile view.
No, right.
The bridge needs to be in more. The chin and the mouth isn't right from the profile view, but looking on,
yeah, it's perfect.
You can't tell that going on, and that's kind of the beauty of a photograph. And that's one of the things I taught at culinary school. And one of the things I taught was sculpture, whether it was fruit and melon sculpture or whether it was ice carving. And I often told the students, I'm like, step away, go outside, have a soda, come back in, get a new look at it. Because you guys know you get so focused to looking at one aspect of it that you can't get that one aspect out of your mind. Absolutely. You go out and you walk back in and you look at it and go, well, maybe that isn't as bad as I thought it was. Going on. So
we actually have a question from Pat Cavanaugh. How do you get the precision circles cut for the eyes?
Well, I guess either one of us can open. All three of us can share our methods. I think me and Matt are pretty much the same at this point.
I think I could even tell at this point. I've watched you
guys
so much.
I would love it if Mickey Mondragon would explain this right now.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Let's hear it, Mickey. You're the best.
Isn't it that kind of half pipe type of tool that you poke in and let's silhouette on you right there.
Let me see. I can. So this here is the tool.
Yeah.
And it has two ends. And at the half, it's like a half round. So as you can see, it's not fully round.
Yep.
So what we do is you put it on the sculpt where you want your eye. And then if you want it high, you have a half circle to actually gives you the options to look up or look down. And then once it's in there, you give it a nice turn. And then you just push in as much as you want. And at some point you'll hear it snap. And you can just pull the material out and you have that perfect cavity. And then you go back in for the pupil with the next size down. So I have different size tools that I use. And it gives you a perfect circle.
And there's another quick way, but it doesn't work with that. What Paul's talking about with the half of an eye. So lots of times to get it more realistic, you want the eyelid covering part of the iris and maybe part of the pupil. But if you're going to do a broad, wide open eye, a spade drill bit works. And it doesn't even have to be in a drill. You just stick it in there and spin it around and pull it out, and you have a perfect eye socket.
Well.
Wow.
With a pupil.
Look at you just
there you go.
Two birds in one.
With a pupil, and then a trick that I don't use very often, but a straight pin, and I have some that are the exact color of the flesh of a pumpkin, and you can put the highlight in there. One of the things that
that's awesome.
We do, like, there's an eye like that. And for beginning, this works great. That highlight and I've talked to Ray about this, and he's never used the straight pins because he loves the idea that somebody can walk up to it and go, everything's pumpkin. And you're like, yeah, everything's pumpkin, even the highlight in the eye. So, I mean, I do that too when I have time, but if it's a competition and nobody sees me doing it, stick a straight pin in there.
Right. When time is of the essence, the pin is the way to go. Now,
if I go on another one of those competition shows, all the judges are going to be looking for straight pins.
Yeah, they are.
I
know I'll be looking for them.
That is a perfect testament that there's 1,000 ways to do one thing.
Oh, yeah. You can carve them by hand if you can carve a good circle.
That is awesome.
Yeah, those days are over. I'm sticking to my half rounds. It's a time.
And there's even spade drill bits that kind of flare out on the sides, which push that corner and give you more of a shadow. Because you can see the shadow up in this side, but you can't see the shadow down here. So if I just take, and this is a com knife. So if you don't have a com knife, get one.
Is that similar to a bird's beak?
Yeah, it's the Thai carvers use them a lot. So you can see right there how I got a shadow now down here and up there. This was the shadow from the light. This is a shadow from because I cut it too much or deeper. But here's a com. It's like a bird's beak, but it's not curved like that. And it comes to a really, really fine point. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's very thin. And they're short-handled. I have painted all mine Viking purple with purple fingernail polish, by the way. Fingernail polish on the tools.
I heard that's what most Viking fans wear anyways, purple nail polish.
Hey, Mickey, I have a set of these I got on had to be like Amazon. So it's just these 3 knives, including that one. Where is my camera? So it's including that really cool one with the really sharp end. But they're 3. They come in a pack of 3. I think this was like $12.
Okay.
But they're super sharp, and the brand is called Com. Just like
yours. The Com.
Yeah.
I have had the plastic handled ones, and I don't feel like they put as high a grade of steel into it. It doesn't stay sharp as long. So I like to get the one with a wooden handle. I have 2 of them because I have to have a backup. Because if you drop it and it bends the tip, you're kind of out on it. Yeah. But I use the little triangle tool to drop a lot of lines in when I want a softer line. Like I'll drop a soft line in and then hit it with a Scotch Brite pad. But when I want these sharp, crisp lines around the eyes, that's where I go to the Com. To get those, and like in between the lips to sink that line deeper. You notice in the blinking eye, the line down the middle is deeper and darker. That's because I hit that with a Com to where some of these others are just with a loop tool.
And you can if you have a good X-Acto knife, it kind of is the same. It's a little shorter distance because the blades are shorter, but I noticed that was one thing I noticed a long time ago. Ray finishes with an X-Acto knife a lot of times, or that's towards the end of his sculpt, is to get all those deeper lines. And so I started doing that, and then with the one limitation being that an X-Acto blade, as you probably know, is this long. Let's see if I can get that in the camera.
Yeah, you have the curved one.
Yeah, come on, camera. There we go. So it's just a regular straight one. They do have many different ones you can get from Hobby Lobby of different curves and stuff, but this is just a straight one. But the length of the blade is helpful if you're trying to get deep into a mouth. So
yeah, that long Com helps when you need to get there. On that.
Com is the brand, just so I'm clear.
KOM. Yep.
Yeah, that's the brand name. Going on with that.
Cheap. I don't know if that's what it means, but
cheap.
It works. I'm telling you that it definitely works. Going on.
I just got some tools actually from a company I don't know about. That's Axiom. Does anybody use Axiom?
Axiom.
Yeah.
I just got a whole new set of this.
Of course, I grabbed the pink one. I'll grab a green one.
Yeah. Oh, so you have the same set? Okay.
Yeah. The problem with is they're not as sharp. So I've taken mine to a stone wheel and put more of an edge on the ribbon.
Wow.
Or taken a hand file and filed some of them because some of the shapes are so. But I have a wet stone wheel that I can sharpen some of those up with and make them a little bit more aggressive because the other ones, just the aluminum colored ones, they seem to work the best when you get a good set of those.
The Kemper, one.
Yeah,
really
yeah, but they end up breaking, and the wire's thin, which makes it cut well, but they end up breaking. Well, these have a thicker wire, these Axioms, but with it thicker, it doesn't push through as well. So I've been working on sharpening those up, so they push through a little bit easier.
What do you typically use? We've been talking a lot about pumpkin tools. Do you ever sharpen your loop tools, or just buy new ones? Actually, that's a great question. I try sharpening mine, and when they start getting a little dull and they haven't all the way, broken through, and I take a little tiny Dremel and use it, and it's never scientific because I have big catcher's mitts for hands, so everything I touch is typically breaks. But yeah, that's how I've sharpened things before that way. But the question I have for Dean is when you're ice sculpting and you're trying to get all those details, what are you using there? Are you using some kind of loop tools for the small tiny details?
So we have die grinders and those that aren't familiar with die grinders are overgrown industrial Dremel tool. We have them with, they come usually accepting a 1/4-inch shank to the bits on them, and you can have those modified. And a couple of the guys have modified and started their own tool businesses and then sell a bunch of the tools. So you can have a huge bit on them to a really. There's a Roscoe bit that is it's kind of like the ComCom of ice carvers. It's just a little needle type. It's a round cone shape with 2 sharp sides on the cone, and it just takes a little off each time to where you can get a big aggressive just burr with all these little metal spikes on it that's 4 inches long with 1/4-inch spikes all the way around it. They'll just rip. It's pretty dangerous.
Yeah, sounds great.
But they are fun. They're fun for sure. So the tools from each thing that I do teach me a little bit about the next thing, So when you're working with sand, I know when you talk to Danny and when you talk to Ray about sand, you talk about you learn to sculpt in that area. Like if you're doing a huge head, you work on just the forehead and you get that all the way done before you move down to where in ice, I can sculpt the shape of the whole thing and then go back and add detail. So it's a little different, and pumpkin will dry out. So you got to do it in a certain amount of time. So there's a lot of things. So this was Patrick O'Brien and myself. This was that pumpkin that Brian Reeb gave us saying it's going to get DQ'd. And we needed, for the client, we needed to get one pumpkin done with us 2 pairing up, and then we each did one on our own. But this was the concept. So I went in and laid out the shape of Spider-Man and kind of shaped him, kind of left the city kind of vague, and had Patrick come in and lay out the suit on Spider-Man. And then we were able to both come in at the last minute and work on the cityscape.
That's really cool.
There's that praying mantis.
There it is. That thing's amazing.
So that was the bug one at the Milwaukee Zoo, and just the color of that pumpkin was awesome, and it fit in with the fall woods that were behind it. And we did a whole scene of all bugs around it. I don't think I sent that, but I just love the color at the bottom of this pumpkin. in the Milwaukee Zoo, they have a local grower that grows for them, and we usually have to barter to get which pumpkins out of that grow that we want, because they have an annual thing where they take the giant pumpkins and they put them in the elephant enclosure, and the elephants smash them around and throw them around their trunks. So we're always like, no, that one sucks. Give that one to the elephants. We want this one. So luckily I got this one on that event, but we usually do a couple of 2 or 3 of these this year. I think they might be still doing an event this year. I think it overlaps with one of my other events, so I don't think I'll be down there, but I think all the sculpture for this event will be done ahead of time, and it'll just be a drive-through to where it's usually spectators coming to watch us sculpt.
Let's hope to God this is the last year they do drive-throughs. I can't even imagine how that's going to work, but you know.
Hey, I'm just glad that people are doing drive-throughs instead of canceling them all.
I agree. Yeah.
Well,
hey. That one is the who did I say that was? Character. It's Tommy Lee Jones. I decided later that his jowl is too wide and his eyes are too big and wide open. I looked at a lot of other characters of Tommy Lee Jones, and they all made him with little eyes. So I could say, well, maybe his eyes are a little big for his head, and but that's the beauty of a character.
And now I see those pins.
Yeah, now you see the pins in his eyes.
Good catch, Mickey. Good catch.
Now I can't use that anymore around you guys.
No. Expert tip.
Yes, you heard it here first, folks.
I mean, how much time in each carving is that going to save you?
Oh my God.
At least 2 minutes.
Yeah. I dare you to carve a pupil rounder than that. I mean, a highlight rounder than that.
Oh, that's a good one there too. That one's great. Looks like an egg.
Oh, that's crazy.
So that was just at our house for Halloween, because my wife usually says, "You've been gone carving all these pumpkins, and I never have one for Halloween." So a couple years ago, I was home on Halloween, so I did that for our front doorstep.
I really like that one. I might have to copy your idea there if I ever get to carve one on my steps again.
This year might be the year.
You're all right. It's definitely. Yeah, but there'll be no trick or treaters to enjoy it.
Yeah, that's the other part. You don't really want people coming to your door, do you?
Oh, I don't mind.
Yeah, have your friends come and look at it, and or your kids' friends come look at it, and yeah.
Well, isn't that really now the beauty of social media? Is before your friends would have to see it, or you would have to actually take a picture and show people and get pictures developed. And now you're like, hey, I'm done. Click here, and you just give it to everybody, and then you're on to the next one. So it makes it easier. But I used to like when before. Oh, that's a good one too. People would come by literally to be like, I just wanted to come by and see the pumpkins.
So this is a sugar skull. It's probably about 120, 140 pound pumpkin. And just getting that depth for the shadow lines makes this one kind of go. I've done this one a couple times. This is probably the best version. I've actually done this one 3-dimensional like this, and then went in behind it and scraped for a glow event and got it to light up and glow. But this is one of my favorite shots of the ones I've done like this. And
love that.
When I travel doing pumpkins, and I noticed from Year 2 Studios that you have the same kind of thing going on, is I keep 2 black felt blankets, basically. That'll give you quite a few shots before you get pumpkin all over them.
Yes.
To where when you're taking these photos, you don't have to edit a whole bunch of crap out of the background in it, and you can get just the good shot of the pumpkin that you want. And this was the natural lighting in the room. This wasn't even me trying to light it up. But I did have a black background on it.
That's nice.
This one was just because I can.
That's awesome.
the kind of
Because, huh?
kind of the guitar thing going on. This one was a week before the skeleton with the guitar.
So you were on a guitar kick. That's
Yeah, I was on the guitar kick. And I got to look at pictures when I do this because I can't look at a guitar and say it should have this, this, and this. I'm sure you guys can look at this guitar and say that neck is way too short. It doesn't have enough lines. It doesn't.
No, I say it doesn't look like a drumstick.
It doesn't look like a drumstick.
all I know.
Yeah. The majority of my time was spent on the wings. My favorite cartoon is Pinky and the Brain.
Oh,
Awesome.
Brain. Love it.
So we're going to take over the world tonight.
Every night.
Yeah, every night. Let's take over the world. Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a great one.
Those are, so at one of the events, that Hamilton event, they have sponsored pumpkins. So this is one of the sponsored pumpkins. So leading up to the event, I spend 3 days carving 3 or 4 of these pumpkins a day. So that's probably only a 3-hour carve there, maybe.
Wow, it's a long day too, huh?
good God.
Day for a car.
Yeah. Drop in like 3 or 4 of those a day, get those done, and then when you just think you can relax, that's when you get the 1,000-pounder, and you got to work on that for a whole day.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Then you rest the rest of the week, and you go. So this one's a song, and I think it's Nazareth from way, way, way back. Giving the dog a bone. You guys remember the song?
Sure.
Giving the dog a bone. From the Hair of the Dog album, I think.
Didn't AC/DC have a song "Giving the Dog a Bone" too? Maybe, I don't know.
It might have been. I might have it mixed up.
They
you're
had
thinking
a lot of innuendo songs.
Yeah, I think
every
you're
one
thinking
of
about
those
Sink the Pink.
I always
Jesus.
say
Kids watching.
all my musical talent lies in listening.
Yeah.
My musical talent lies in listening. I can't.
That's
used to
crazy though. For someone that isn't a musician, a lot of your work is inspired by
music.
songs, or we've seen the visual of guitars, and so you are very musical.
Oh, I love music. I love listening to music. But I sang in the church choir, and the guy singing next to me told me to just mouth it because I was throwing him off. And I felt bad mouthing it in church because then you're lying to God.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to quit choir.
I know we only got like 15 minutes or so left. Can I get a little bit more advice from the pros for a second? I just want to see. So I did what you said there. I think that makes it look a lot better, bringing those teeth in. I might even do a little bit more, but or might shorten them up a little bit more. I'm not. They still kind of look like a little too big for me, but we'll still play with it. But I just wanted to get your opinion on eyes. So he's going to have kind of a heavy lower lid, and then the top of the brow will be pretty mashed up into this meat here. The brow, the eyelid, and then have a kind of a half pupil here visible. Is that what you guys would think, or should I go a different direction with the eyes?
I think you should add 6 more on the forehead.
Okay.
Different pupils and irises, and glue on some wings to the back.
Yeah, the wings here, and then a horn.
Horn coming up out of the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, I like them. I would say that if it was me, but I'm a one-trick pony when it comes to that. I would have them almost as close, almost like he's looking up. You know what I mean? At you like this with those big menacing teeth. Like yeah, like that, like that. Blue steel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I think so too. And the teeth in the front, how deep are they yet? Can you curve them? If you looked at the profile and curved them.
Down.
Yeah, like that. Towards the inner mouth. Yeah.
Yeah, I can. I got enough room. I can definitely.
Yeah, that
straighten
one
up.
started that way a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think curving them in would give them more shape, because I think part of it isn't the size, part of it is the shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay. Yeah, they are straight, and I wanted to kind of get away from the natural curvature of it, but I think now that I've built the the right distance or whatever. I think that would make, because if he does ever close his mouth, they're going to come out and bust his lips open. So I don't want him to get hurt.
You're always
Exactly.
thinking about everybody else. You're such a good guy.
I'm just thinking of his future, which is going to be javelina food in about an hour. Thank you guys. I never get to. I asked my kids, and they said, "Oh, it looks great."
Don't change it. Don't
I
change
get to
it.
ask you guys and get some real feedback. So thank you.
So the idea with that and asking your family is never go by what they say. My mentor as a chef, he was a painter, and he would paint, and he wouldn't let his wife see the painting. He had a studio in the basement. He wouldn't let her see the painting till it was done, and he would put it across the room and ask her to come down the stairs. And when she came down the stairs and looked across and saw it, that told him everything that he needed to know. She didn't have to say yes or no. He could read her facial expression and say, okay, I screwed this one up, or okay, this one's a winner. And that's kind of true when I show something to my wife. I use that. I'm like, what do you think of this? Because she never wants to hurt my feelings. She's always going to tell me it's good. She's never going to tell me that sucks. So you gotta read her facial expression, and if her facial expression says that sucks, you got to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Is it better to maybe not ask, how do you like this? Is it maybe better to say, like, what stands out to you when you see this, or some form the question differently?
Yeah.
I often say, what do you think? Because then the first thing that's on her, if there's something glaring that stands out, she might say, I think its eyes are too small, or I think you need more depth in one spot or another. And I think you get a better answer that way than, do you like it?
Yeah.
I always want to know the real answer, but then when I get it, if she says, like the eyes are too big, this is that, I'm like, what do you know?
Yeah.
You're not a sculptor. Yeah.
I'll throw it away.
You don't know what I'm doing.
She's pretty good at giving me good critiques. She'll tell me little tweaks here and there, but she knows to not shit on my ego.
Yeah.
I worked on this for 6 hours. What do you think? You've done better. You're like, oh.
Well, it's tough when you're heading in one direction and you show it to them, and their suggestions head you back in the direction that you left.
Yes.
That's
behind, and you're like, oh crap, I should have did what she said, but it's too late to go that way, and you don't want to tell her she's right either.
Dean, you said it right there. Give in and say you're right.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah,
at
can't do
the
that.
end of the day, they usually are pretty right.
Yeah. Mark
Brutally
says
honest.
that his wife is brutally honest, which I appreciate. I rather have that, and actually makes him redo stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's more constructive, I think, for an artist to get that honest feedback and just, maybe say it in the right way. It's just like, hey, I don't know what's right, actually.
It's such a hard thing. You want to be critiqued, but you don't want to be critiqued. You don't want to. You want to feel like you did it right the first time.
I don't want to do it over.
But I honestly never feel like I do anything right. It's the way it comes out, because it's it's a natural process. So it's never going to be exactly how you saw it in your head.
True.
But to have somebody say, you should have done this a little different, that a little different. You're like, were you in my head when I thought of this?
Right.
You weren't in my head when I thought of this.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if it doesn't help that sculpture, it may help one in the future. So you're
right. That's exactly
getting
what
the right critique. And one of the best situations for the critique, you saw that picture of Greg and I standing behind a fruit and vegetable carving. We would take breaks one at a time, so there was always somebody at the booth entertaining. Well, when I'd come back, I would slowly kind of sneak up behind the crowd and just sit there and listen for 5 minutes and see what people said. Because usually people will try to spare your feelings when they're giving you a critique to your face. But if you're not there, if you were in the hidden camera looking at it, they'll give you the truth.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or ask a little kid, because they give you the truth most of the time, whether you're there or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I found that kids are the best at doing that. You're right. I do a gig in Chicago every year, and that's the first thing I do. But I'll turn and just be like, so what do you think? You know, they'll be like, oh, it's really good. Or some kid will be like, it's all right. You know, I got some work to do. This kid's being honest.
Matt, those teeth are looking better already.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
great.
I think that was great advice. So even the profile, you can see it's not as cartoony. It's more, you know, vicious looking because it's that curve, you know, down into it. Teeth, the bottom teeth, they don't have a whole lot of play with because they're so close to the inside. But at least the tops are kind of what sell it anyway. So
Well, you could go back and watch Ray's pumpkin carving video for 8 hours and figure out how to make potato teeth and put them in there.
well, yeah, I think I'll skip that for this one. I got pumpkins to carve. I'm, you know, at this point.
I do. I have some russets back here because I've never done the Ray Villafane russet eyes with a carrot in there. So I got some carrots and some russets, and I'm gonna do those eyes one of these days and get those down. So if I'm in a situation where I need those different colored eyes, I'll be able to do that.
One little trick that he showed us when we were on the phone, on the last wherever we were with him, is he uses that scoop, right? The Danny Kissel scoop type thing, the ice cream scoop or the, you know, melon baller, and you know, forms the eye that way. But then for the cavity behind it, what I ended up doing, which was great and very easy to do, is core a hole, keep coring that hole until I can feel it get behind the eye, and then I'm coring that in that same motion that I made the potato out of, and literally pushing that same potato up through the hole, and it fits snugly because it's that same shape all the way down from the back to the front, and it fits in really well. And the curve is the same curve as the potato you're putting in there, so it's very snug.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was going to try it on a pumpkin where I can just cut a panel in the back and be able to get that eye socket, because if we took our eye out, it's bigger than what you ever see anyway, and
yeah,
you imagine a ball behind your eyelids with that one going on.
Well,
So an hour and a half has flown by once again. So, Dean, I mean, we definitely would love to have you back. I mean, you have so many great stories to tell about everything. I mean, I had the most pictures I've ever had in my deck ever, and I'm sure we could do an 8-hour broadcast on them. So your work is incredible. So thank you so much for joining us.
I had a great time doing it, and I was going to rag on Danny Kissel, and I didn't see that picture, so I didn't get to. So.
I love that you had it ready to go. You were ready to rag on him.
Yeah, I mean, like literally, I couldn't get to it. I mean, there's so many pictures here. It's fantastic. Your work is incredible. So,
yeah, great.
So where can we see you? I know that you have an Instagram, the DAMVIKING.
Damn Viking.
There. So, is there anywhere else we can see you, or are you doing anything coming up?
I just do Facebook. Mostly I do Facebook. I don't even do the Instagram. I probably have it, and I've never done anything with it. I'll be posting pictures, and I'm going to do some live Facebook videos from an event that last week where we have the 15,000 pounds worth of pumpkins. I'll do a couple of Facebook lives during that, and some shots during that. But I do a lot of cooking videos on Facebook Live, but this month I might do some of the pumpkin videos in place of some of the cooking videos, because my wife and I are both eating keto right now. So.
Oh, you too.
Oh,
right
very
on.
cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Paul, do you have anything that you want to plug?
Yeah, go to all of Dean's pages and follow him up and watch his shows.
Yeah. And Matt.
I'm going to echo. I'm going to say if you check out all of his ice stuff, I am still just blown away by the variety of his sculptures. And someday I will try those all, but I don't think I'll get to near to the mastery that he has. I mean, I'm just big fan. So make sure you go check out all of Dean's stuff.
Definitely.
I tried hard. If you've seen, I've seen Ray for carving pumpkins. Like I say, 2009, I was introduced to him. And then he, somebody got him into sand and how fast he progressed in sand. I tried to get Ray to do ice, and he said it's too cold, because I can imagine the things that Ray could do with the ice.
Oh my God.
He likes that warm weather, though.
Oh,
Yeah. I did get Danny into ice, so yeah.
I moved from Michigan to Arizona to go back to the ice. I think that's probably it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we are Carvers and Creators. We're here every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Eastern. Please follow, like, subscribe, tell a friend. Please spread the word. We've had an amazing amount of growth in the just over 2 months we've been doing this. So thank you so much. It's been a great outlet. We have great people like Dean on, and we're meeting new people every week, or at least I am. They're all your friends and super artistic and super talented. So
we're fans. We're just fans,
Yeah, definitely.
And we're making friends from all the people we love to watch carve. So it's an awesome community of people.
Yeah, and every week we're learning something new. So it's really fantastic. So please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and definitely follow Dean on his Instagram. So yes, please, we're trying to grow. A lot of big stuff. We're making the march to Halloween. So I'm not sure of what we're going to be doing, but it's going to be something big, I'm sure. So please watch our social media and follow us every week. So we will see you here next Thursday. Good night, everyone. Take care.
See you guys.
Skull.
See you guys.